So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another scene for Darkness in Dublin, the Mage venue, where we will be setting at Agrabah Nights, where Morgan, because she can, is dragging along Callie with one hand and holding a bag of Cheeto Puffs in the other. And just, kind of in an adorably plaintive tone, at least for her, being like, come on, I haven't gotten drunk in pause. 2
Yesterday.
days. 2 days?
Technically yesterday.
I mean, do you count the AM? It was before I slept. It's been 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, we've been at the garden all day. Come on.
Fine. Fine.
And, victoriously, Morgan will be leading Callie in through the flap that serves as a door, the tent-like arrangement that Agrabah Nights has going on. And we'll step inside and just kind of take in a breath because I imagine that the place smells like several different kinds of interesting spices and incenses if it's all as thematic as it has been brought up across. So, yeah, she'll go in and just kind of take a breath because, this is the smell of the place where she drinks for free. Her favorite kind of place. And she will, of course, glance back, grinning over her shoulder with, the good eye, naturally. It's over her left shoulder. Besides, maybe I like having you to myself for a little bit before we go home.
She frowns. All right then. Kind of just nods awkwardly.
When they go into Agrabah Nights, they would notice Eric sitting in an armchair in one of the corners, reading something. They can't probably make out exactly what it is. He has a cup of hot chocolate next to him because why not? And he needs to go work. He needs to work tomorrow, so he can't really get pissed the way he wants to.
I feel the overwhelming need to be mischievous, but I don't know if my dice pool will allow it. Let me scroll up and find out. I have doubts. They're well-founded doubts. It's a passable pool. So Morgan will take on a mischievous glint, briefly releasing Callie's hand to me, like, hold on, I want to do something fun. And I'm going to roll some stealth. I'm going to sneak up on him. Because I don't know, because Morgan's weird.
Because it's fun.
Pretty much. So let's see what kind of pool that is. That's 2 successes if you want to roll alertness. I don't know how hard he's studying his book. You set your own diff.
Yeah, he's probably. I'm gonna roll a diff 7 because he's not like, oh fuck, this is exciting, but he is paying attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
10, 7, F1. Wow, shit.
Wow.
Okay.
He's on point. So yeah, you will see, at least from her point of from his point of view, the two of them come in and there will be a brief murmur. And Morgan will release Callie's hand and begin to slip around the side of the room, and he might catch even well, I mean, one could call it predatory, one could call it playful, potato, same diff, really, as she begins slipping up the side of the room, obviously meaning some sort of mischief or another. There's no real telling what exactly she's up to, but I mean, you can see that she's kind of slinking along. She thinks she's sneaky.
Oh, hi, Morgan. He says as he's still with one eye, he briefly glances up from his book to recognize her as he speaks to her.
At which point she immediately ceases her slink, draws herself up, and looks at him as though horribly offended. Proceeds to kind of give a snap of the fingers and just go, damn.
Well, what brings you two here tonight?
Free food. What brings anyone here, really?
That's a fair point.
Finger gun. Well, that's my fun ruined. Pooh.
I show he smiles at her, and she can see that it's kind of a no, teasing is the wrong word in English. That's not what he means. I think teasing, but in the friendly way that isn't like he's not trying to flirt with her. He's like trying to like what's it?
Teasing can mean an array of things.
Okay, good.
It's probably the right word.
Good. Okay, so that's what he looks at her with that kind of look and says, "Well, you can try again, and I will pretend to be surprised." He smiles.
It's not the same. No. She just lifts her chin up, turns her face away like, no. It's just, no. Turns on her heel.
He can't help but smile a little at that, and when he sees Kylie, he nods to her as well in recognition. Well, it's good to see some other people here. I haven't really I've been reading, but one can get too involved in one's books, he says as he puts a mark in the book and closes it.
Morgan is sulking her way back to Callie because her fun has been spoiled.
Guy just gives her the "I fucking told you" look. You know what I mean?
There's no sympathy from Callie. Her life is suffering.
Nope. Guy just gives you the look like that's what you get.
He gestures to the cup of hot chocolate next to him. Probably the better that way. He says, "Hot chocolate all over someone, like all over my lap, isn't really my idea of a good time."
She just nods slowly. No, it's not typically anyone's idea of a good time. No.
Callie will see Morgan kind of open her mouth, pause. It just whatever was about to come out, she just swallows it right back down. Just nope.
Hang on. I got the appropriate reaction for Callie because I know exactly what you're teasing her about.
What was it? Who said I was going to tease you? Jeez. Not a reaction gif. Why are you like this?
That's what she just meant, but she's like, "Go on, say it." That type of stare.
Morgan rolls her eye innocently, sealing words, as if she hasn't the foggiest idea what she might be giving her such a look for. She, after all, is an innocent, sweet little angel who has done no wrong. She's full of shit. But, it works out. It's fine. It's fine. And she will end up, because Katie desperately wants coffee, she'll end up managing to sling by the bar in just time enough to snag Irish coffee that's been set out for her. And we'll pause, turn a glance back to Callie. You want anything while I'm over here?
Cider would be nice.
Ed Morgan, very carefully holding her own little cup in one hand, will dip into a bit of a bow, just because. Why not? She's feeling saucy today for some reason, and will, in fact, get a cider. Ed will merrily return to her side, offering it over.
Kind of just pick a straw from the bar and just plonk it in the bottle.
Yes. To which I imagine they end up flumped on one of the piles of cushions and pillows and whatnot that is used as seating in Agrabah Nights, as opposed to the traditional booth situation. And Morgan lets out a sigh. Long-suffering sigh. What game she might have played.
Oh, the humanity.
It's terrible. Life is suffering. Whoa.
Eric has closed the book and he will put it in his briefcase and then look up at the two. What have you two been up to lately? He says with a smile. It's been a while since I've seen you.
What haven't we been up to?
We've been quite busy. Tending to gardens and trees and listening to Morgan whine as per usual. Sips.
Morgan just immediately pulls the hand to her chest. So offended.
Oh, that old the old woman in the house with the roses.
We visited there, yes. We all went for a walk. It was quite pleasant.
Yeah.
It was. Why have you been there?
Yeah, I was there as well. I mean, she was nice and it was a nice place, but to be honest, I didn't really. I mean, with everything that's happening in the city at the moment, it just felt a little bit like escapism, you know?
I find it's the small things that you might gain or lose that make the big things so very, very important in how they turn out. Were flowers not your thing? There's just the tiniest crook of a teasing smirk at the corner of her lips before she goes for the liquor-enhanced coffee.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. What is it that that movie with Tom Hanks? Right, you have to enjoy the little things, something like that. Yeah. There is that.
There is. So were flowers just not your forte?
I
I'm
mean,
a flower guy.
he smiles and says, "Well, I mean, it's not that I don't like flowers. It's not like a Ebenezer Scrooge bar humbug kind of thing. It's just, you know, I don't know." He says with a smile. It was pleasant enough, but a little bit. I mean, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. He says with a shrug. I like the old lady, and let's just leave it at that. Anyway, flowers. Yes, flowers. Flowers can be cool. They're good for when you've fucked up and you want to apologize. But I'm a doctor, not a botanist.
Morgan can't help herself. She shoots Callie a little side glance.
Looks over.
Smirking. Sorry.
She just look over, mid sip.
In that case, I'm curious. I have heard that there are djinn all over this city. Have you heard about them? Looking over to Eric.
That there are what? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Djinn.
Jinn. Oh, like those Arabic spirits that
Yes.
are like demons.
Genies, essentially.
Yeah, okay. He looks at her. Oh, no. Okay, with his 3 dots of academics, I'm going to say that he knows what a genie, what a djinn is.
I'd assume he would have a vague idea of what a djinn is. In fact, I'm fairly sure that djinn are some of the staff here at Agrabah Nights. So
yeah. He looks at her and says, "No, I didn't. I mean, not apart from the one tier, of course. I didn't know that there were others."
I've heard they were roaming about. I was curious.
Now that is cause for shenanigans, probably, if they, or at least it could be.
So what have you heard about? If you've seen the gardens and you've not heard about the djinn.
Well, to be honest, he says, I I was listening with half an ear when we got the story about the. He's trying to, just as his player is, Eric is trying to think back on that day. We were shown around by her son, who didn't seem very interested in the topic at all. And there were some pretty flowers, and that was basically it. One of the others who was there, I can no longer remember who it was. Basically, talked to one of the flower, talked to a flower for a while, but I didn't hear the flowers part of the conversation, so I couldn't say what was going on there.
Well, see, now that's a shame. You should have had her lead your tour. Hearing someone talk with that kind of passion is very invigorating.
Hmm.
But alas, that's all right. Not all of us are interested in playing in the dirt.
He smiles. I get more dirt than I can handle at work, though. It's a different kind. He says with a is it called gallows humor in English as well?
Hmm?
Yeah, okay, with a kind of gallows humor grin. So I think I'm dealing with my fair share.
As a surgeon, yeah, I expect as much.
Well, did I ever tell you guys how I awoke?
Shake of the head.
You haven't.
It was actually at work. He says with a now he's not smiling, but he has a pensive thought trying to remember that night. It was not a very good night. I had only just been forced to call a patient, and I tried to save them for like 5-10 minutes, and nothing I did worked. So I was forced to call it, and right after, I'm not kidding, a couple of seconds after I had called it, someone else came running and said that I was needed. So I followed them, and they were I rushed to another bedside with a victim of a traffic accident. It was I can't remember how old she was. She couldn't have been more than 12 or something. It was horrible. Let's just keep it at that. And when he recollects the evening, you can see that the look on his face changes to I'm watching something unpleasant before my inner eye. Anyway, I immediately got to work, but there is, I don't know how to explain it. You instantly get a kind of idea of whether or not you can actually do something for these people. And when I saw that girl, I knew that, okay, this is a lost cause, but I went to it anyway. And when that happened, everything stood still. And a short tale to make, I ended up doing the impossible that night. I did stabilize the girl, and I mean, I shouldn't have been able to. She should have been dead. So that was basically when that happened, and then of course the technocracy tried to get at me, even that very same night.
As they do.
Yeah. Apparently, it turns out that I was someone who had really pissed them off in an earlier incarnation. I'm still not entirely sure why.
Something of a brow quirk. Side glance to Callie.
Guy just nods. So you awoke during the surgery?
Yeah.
Oh. What did it feel like?
It was. God, it feels like it's ages ago, right? He grins. It felt powerful. I mean, what I did that night should not have been possible, but I did it anyway, and that was a good feeling. There's a little girl alive because I happened to be on call that night. How lucky is that?
Very.
Very fortunate for her.
And that's why I've been everything I've done since then has been trying to like hone my skills in both, of course, like in the purely mundane sense, but also trying to find a way to use what we can do in a way that doesn't have too much of a risk of blowing up in my face.
That is the trick, isn't it?
Indeed. Yeah, sure. Like, oh, this guy just walked in with, this guy just came in with like with both legs and both arms amputated to help me. Well, now he has arms and legs again, but his doctor exploded. So, yeah.
And how do you cope with the ones you can't save?
He shakes. He thinks for a moment and says, "That was the question that I asked myself all the way through medical school, and back then I just pushed it ahead because I said to myself, well, it won't happen at least until you get out there, so you can't really do anything about it now. And now that it actually has happened," he sighs, and then he looks at his book for a moment, then looks back up at Callie. "There's no choice but to go on," because he says, because if you let it get to you that much, then you're basically, there's no coming back from it. He says, even if you make no mistakes at all, and I can't remember actually having lost a patient to a mistake yet, knocks on wood, but even if you don't make any mistakes, it's still gonna impact you. You're still gonna have doubts about whether or not you did everything you could, and all you have to do is to say that, like, be honest with yourself and try to learn from the experience, because if you just throw in the towel then and there, then there's not going to be any doctors left soon enough.
Have you much experience out in the field since you awoke?
He says, I've been some places, yes. I was on the Leviathan when I was also I was also at the scene when I'm going to assume that the two of you have heard about how Rory almost blew up an entire station full of sleepers.
No, I've heard, but nobody's told me.
Well, again, long story short, okay, how can I? Very long story short, you can get the rest of the story from someone who has more recent knowledge of what transpired afterwards than I do. But the long and short of it is that the group had agreed on one plan, and Rory decided to do something else, which involved throwing the helmet of a fallen technocrat into basically what can be described as a reactor that ended up blowing the whole facility in the spiritual sense, so to speak. I don't think that the sleepers noticed much, but many of us who were there, us awakened who were there, had we could very easily all have been killed, and we suffered some very grievous injuries. It was only a miracle. It was a miracle that we managed to recover again, and some very hardcore magic. But basically, yeah. The only reason I brought that up was because, I mean, to say that I was there as well. Yeah, I've been around a little bit, and I have a feeling that I'm about to be around even more, because even though I'm not yet in a tradition, he says, I am not going to sit around on my ass while my allies go out there and fight. I'm going to be there and do my best to keep people in one piece.
She nods slowly. So, as a man who preserves life,
Mm.
what is your opinion then if the traditions say we should butcher all of these Templars?
He shakes his head. I'm not a complete pacifist, he says as he looks at him. I don't know enough about the internal workings of our society, of our political society, to know much here. But I do know that there are such things as wars who are necessary. I don't know if this is one of them. Even in the mundane world, there have been necessary wars. What I do know is this: that I'm not going to get involved in the politics and who's wrong and who's right. I'm going to go out there in the field and I'm going to look at who needs my help the most, and whoever that is, I will help first. That is what we basically call triage. If you've seen any medical shows, you may have heard the term. It basically amounts to, that guy is missing a hand. That guy has scraped his knee. I'm going to help the one with the missing hand first.
Does that mean that in the midst of a battle, when the enemy begins to lose, you'll begin treating them instead of your allies?
My mission is to save lives. He looks at her, and if I have a friend and an adversary the same distance from me with the same injury, then I will probably treat the friend first. In any other case, I'm going to triage because I'm a doctor. I have taken an oath to preserve life, if at all possible to me.
So if we take the field, and you are among us, and a man is on the ground, still breathing, but badly injured, who would happily slit your throat the second that you undid his injuries, you would still go and take him from the ground in favor of an ally. Because he's the more grievously injured, of course.
He looks at her and says, again, I answered that question. Yes, I'm a doctor. If I can see that an ally will survive a minute while I help someone else, then yes. If an ally won't survive, then I will treat them first. Again, it's a matter of triage.
But that's not the question. The question is, if you knew by healing this enemy that the second he's healed, he's going to attempt to kill you, would you still heal him?
Yes.
Morgan gives an idle shrug and settles a bit further back on the pillows, as though she's settled some thought or another in her head.
Probably just nods slowly. She doesn't convey it oh God. No, she just nods as if she's trying to process and understand, and just nods to herself.
The Hippocratic Oath, Eric says as he puts his book back in his briefcase. The Hippocratic Oath is very clear, and even though that's not the exact oath I took, because I didn't take my medical degree in this country, ours is almost identical in the terms.
No,
and I take my oath very seriously. Come again, sorry?
I said you needn't go into the details. I get the idea. I'll just make sure that when I'm done with something, it's very dead, so that you don't pick it back up off the floor.
He doesn't answer that, but he now it's his turn to shrug.
Cliff notes, just for you. And she pulls up a finger, kind of tapping it down. Not so long ago, the choristers began to kill their own, any who did not follow the Christian God and recognize Jesus Christ as a son of God. Any of the religions, even within their own order, who did not recognize this, were hunted down and purged as heretics. And she pulls out the second finger. They then decided to declare that the choristers were leaving the 9 traditions, renaming themselves the Canticles of Lamentation. And then, pulls out the third. The remaining choristers, who are still loyal to the original cause, claim that this was not the case, making the Canticles of Lamentation essentially a splinter group, who has taken with them hostages and those who have been tortured and killed, again, for either not following their very particular religion or for being affiliated with those who do not. She kind of glances over to Callie, wasn't there some rescue effort that involved managing to secret away a number of children, that rabbi, who all were being held and meant to be killed, being hunted like dogs? And now,
they've currently butchered one of the high mages, I think, of the Akashiani.
Yep.
For simply coming as a vessel of peace.
She, pulls out the fourth finger, the pinky, and tips that one as Callie speaks. One of the Akashiana went to negotiate with them for the release of the hostages and was murdered as a result. Are these the kinds of people you wish to save?
Eric looks at her very he's not. It isn't anger. It is determination. He looks at her and says, "That does sound like that does sound like from our side that the war is just." He says, because that is wholly unacceptable. Doesn't even begin to cover it. However, that still does not change the point. I have sworn to save lives, and that is why I will, if we go into battle and I happen upon an injured enemy, I will try to heal them. I'm going to assume that and I know that I'm fairly new to this society we have, but I'm going to assume that we have tribunals and something that resembles a court system. That is where those people should be dealt with.
The traditions have already declared opposition.
There is talks of a tribunal after, depending on how much survivors are left.
And that is the proper place to deal with that. He says, an injured enemy is still a person, and I'm going to try my best to get as many people from all sides back home alive. I'll then leave the oh fuck, what's it called? The Ratsabgard. Give me 2 moments while I try to find that word. Basically the legal consequences. Let's see if there's an English word for what I'm looking for.
Judgment.
Yeah, let's go with that. I'm gonna leave the legalities and the consequences for actions to those higher up in our ranks than I am.
That's fine. You probably won't be in the raiding party anyways.
There will need to be a rescue team for those who have been held, presumably tortured by the tentacles of lamentation.
And those people will need a doctor as well, I assume.
Just so.
Nods.
They will be, hopefully, brought out and brought to those who can treat them. I imagine that's where you'll be. If you're there at all. Eyebrow raise.
I have made my intention clear when Magistrate Onofre of the Order called for volunteers, he says.
The tentacles will be offered a chance to surrender. If they refuse, they will all die.
That is the same ultimatum that the Americans gave the Japanese Empire, and that basically the Germans were given by the Allies.
It's the same offer that these Christians have given to any who follow a god different than themselves and know better than they deserve.
I wasn't criticizing, he says very distinctly. I was saying it's the same thing, and it is more or less the same situation as well.
It is not custom among my culture, but he just shrugs. Whatever makes people more comfortable with killing, I do not mind.
No one should be comfortable with killing, he says. It can be necessary, and in this case it seems, unfortunately, that it shall be. But anyone who is comfortable with killing needs help. I'm sorry, but that's that's not something that people should be comfortable doing.
Morgan casts Callie aside the most. Just it's very blatantly kind of, at least to her, the "he don't know me very well, do he?" look. But it essentially translates to just a hint of canines in the grin.
Callie's again kind of very businesslike. It's not about comfort. It's more. This is war and combat. You have
Indeed,
to make some sort of peace with your gods when you're going in, because who knows when you might be seeing them.
indeed, and that's why I said that it can be necessary, and in this case, it appears it shall be necessary. What I'm saying is that it shouldn't be something that someone takes pleasure in.
Oh, I don't mean pleasure. I mean what makes them ease the guilt away from how they feel. Most of these people are afraid to walk into the war. They will need this offer of surrender as a chance to make right with their conscience.
Mm.
Most people have conscience when they come to a battlefield, many for the first times. It is standard. Nothing wrong with it. It is perfectly healthy to feel the remorse and regret after war. But it's what people make themselves easier to pick up a weapon and go in to fight. I won't judge.
He nods. I agree.
Just shrugs. My ways are very different, but I am respectful enough not to force them on people.
He nods. Again, I know, as of yet, I know little of our society, but from what little I've been able to gather, it has stood for thousands of years, and that's very few human societies can say the same.
Just kind of shrug, absent-mindedly. People forget. The enemy, like the technocracy and these tentacles of lamentation, want to kill you. They will stop at nothing to kill you. Especially the Union. They will hunt you, they will hurt you, they will burn you, they will take everything you love. Why show them the same kindness? For they will never show you it. They deserve no mercy.
Civilization.
Anyone who chooses to live by the sword chooses to die by it.
Eric looks at both of them and says, "Again, I don't disagree that there are times when violence is necessary. This is one of those times. I would not have volunteered to serve if I had thought otherwise. What I'm saying is that, what was it that Nietzsche said? Beware lest you stare into the abyss, that it stare back into you."
Morgan actually begins a gesture. She raises her hand up, brushes the eye patch, but thinks better of it. Ends up just snagging a cheese booth.
My mother always used to say, in the end, you'll have nothing but your dignity in the end and how you choose to face it. Staring into the abyss is more something that you choose to stare into. You choose to kill for pleasure, you choose to kill for duty, you choose to kill for your family. In the end, those who choose to stare in the abyss are greeted with the same thing. The abyss. Those who choose not to, don't. It is all, in the end, comes back to a fundamental choice we all make. We can choose to either fight and stand without becoming monsters, or we can become the monster. But in order to fully face one, sometimes you have to make the tough choices, which means sometimes you do have to look into an abyss every now and again. This is the nature of the war the Union rages.
"I'm going to give you an example of what I mean," he says, "because I'm not sure that I'm." He looked apologetically at them. English isn't my first language, so if I'm not coming across as clearly as I want to. I'm sorry. What I mean is, I'm going to give you an example. During the raid on the facility I talked about before, where Rory ended up crippling almost all of the party, we took down one of the union's leaders. Someone who, I don't know if she had actually been around that long, or if she just had a fetish for it, but she looked and dressed like a real honest to God Nazi. And we managed to get her on the ground, and as soon as she did that and was no longer a threat, I tried to save her life, even though I knew very well she wanted to get to me and end mine, because I had met her before. I was unsuccessful, in part because the others basically pushed me away and finished the job. But the point is that even though I knew who she was and what she wanted to do to me, I still tried to save her, because that is the essence of what I am. I am a doctor. I am a healer. I choose life, even for my enemies, if it's possible at all. Whatever happens at the tribunal, that is out of my hands. Justice must be done. But in the here and now, in as much as it is to me possible, I will try to heal, because that is what I am. That is what I do. That is my purpose.
And if that goes against the orders the traditions give you, would you still heal?
He looks at her and says, "I am, at the moment, I am a mercenary," he says with a smile. "I have volunteered my services, and I mean, if I am ordered to not heal, I can't see anyone giving that order. So it's not really a concern in that I. It's not really something I lay sleepless over. To be honest, I can't see anyone. I can't see being given that order. If I am, then I shall hang back and withdraw my services after that, after the engagement, because I'm a doctor. I heal. That's what I do."
Allow me to make something very abundantly clear then, on the off chance that we should ever share the field. If you leap on my enemy, on my prey, before I'm done with it, and try to pick it back up, I will leave as many holes in you as I do in them.
At that, Eric sits up sharply and looks at her. "So what you're saying is that I should not turn my back on you, because you would stick knives in it, if you so please."
Easy. What Calio say very calmly. There's a difference between healing on the battlefield and healing afterward.
I am saying that if I am in the midst of a fight and my enemy falls, and before I am able to finish my duty, my purpose, you leap on what I am fighting and try to pick it back up off the floor, I will make sure that you are suddenly incentivized not to do such a thing. You may serve your purpose, but let me serve mine.
Eric looks at her and says, "Well, thank you for making clear that I should not trust you to not stick a knife in me if you become angry enough. That is a valuable knowledge. That is valuable knowledge for me."
If that is the shallow meaning that you take from what I have said, then so be it.
That is not what she's.
It isn't shallow, he says. "You basically told me that unless that if I try to heal an enemy, you will try to murder me."
I have
And
told
That
you
is
that if you...
That is not what she said. Calio said very calmly. She said if you impede her in the midst of combat, you will receive the same blow, for you are impeding her during a combat, during a scenario where we are amidst combat. Afterwards, once the combat has ended and there are crawling wounded survivors, you may heal as you please. I have no quarrel. But if you impede her during a combat, when she is engaged in a fight to the death with an enemy,
Which
you choose
field
to
medic
heal.
has ever done anything similar? You don't get in the way of machine gun fire. You wait until the fire has died, and then you attend to the survivors as best you can. That's what I intend. but I do not appreciate being threatened, and I will not stand for it. And know this. I have learned a valuable lesson tonight, so thank you for that.
She gives an idle
What?
shrug.
Why do you yell when nobody has raised their voice or hands to you?
I mean, being threatened kind of does that to people, but I'd say let's leave it at that.
I would say the same to any other healer. I'm a healer myself. I am simply saying, do not keep me from serving my purpose.
We have not said we would impede you.
And I have not said that I would stop you in the middle of anything.
Of course not.
No combat medic has ever done anything similar. Why would I start doing it now?
I do not know you but so well. I am
just
simply drawing a line.
Kylie just twists her head, almost staring confused.
Let me see. What was that? No, that wasn't us. Okay.
Nope. That's them.
Yeah.
All no titties.
My titties are very calm or non-existent titties. Anyway. Moving on.
I am not offering you needless threat off the field. I'm not even offering you threat on the field unless you leap between me and someone I am fighting.
And my
I do not see that that is an unreasonable thing to state.
No?
Just as you do not see it as an unreasonable thing to state that you would not do such a thing.
Exactly. So where did that come from?
I do not know you, and you seem perfectly eager to heal those who would harm you. If you are so eager to leap to the aid of someone who would put a knife in your throat as you tried to put them back together, I can't assume that you have the sense not to leap between me and someone that I am offing.
Eric says, I am eager to heal anyone. And many of our own here, not here right now, but many of our own can testify to that.
I do not disbelieve you.
What I'm saying is that I'm not going to leave the enemy wounded behind when I could save their lives. What I'm saying is that I'm going to try my best to make them to make sure that the survivors can face justice before a tribunal.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm going to do. And what happens at that point is not my concern.
You seem to think we're provoking you when we're not. We're merely stating our point of view in response to yours.
And that's fair, he says, as long as we all know where we stand. And now he actually tries to give them a smile to basically calm the situation down again.
I mean, Callie's fine. She's kind of staring at you, almost very confused, like twisting her head, like almost serpentine, just watching you, just confused.
Yeah, Morgan is still draped out on the pillows. She is maybe gotten a little more intense as far as expression goes. Like, there's a glimmer in the eyes, especially as he has raised his voice. Like, there's been kind of like a slight amp in intensity, but she hasn't like gotten tense. She hasn't like moved to leap up. She's been idly playing with the spearhead that hangs around her neck, but she's been doing that off and on the whole time. It's nothing like significant.
And eating Cheetos, I assume. And eating Cheetos, I assume.
What I'm trying to understand is how you went from the conclusion that Morgan would put a knife in your back.
Because I hadn't.
Trying to understand.
Because I hadn't even mentioned the possibility of actually throwing myself between her and an enemy in the middle of fight. So what I assumed with what she said was that if I tried to heal someone who she had put down, then she would then she would stab me in the back. That's what I reacted to.
If I had moved on and left them crawling, then you do what you want with them.
And that's all. And I mean, that's all I wanted to know. And the reason is that I reacted the other way is because, as I said, I thought you meant to. You said that if I went for someone you had put down, you would basically do the same to me. That's what I.
The people that I put down aren't generally still crawling.
He smiles. Well, then it shan't be a problem in any case.
I should hope not. No, but you seem unduly compassionate. I wanted to make sure that we had an understanding. I don't make it a point to turn around and stab my healers in the back. That's hardly beneficial to me. But war is where I flourish. Just let me serve my purpose and I will let you serve yours.
He knows.
Guys nods to herself. Might I make a suggestion?
He does a go on gesture with his hand.
The next time someone says something that you feel strongly about, maybe ask for clarification on what they meant.
Morgan sips her coffee.
It's
It's a dainty little cup too, just to make it ridiculous.
like one of those fancy China cups.
Absolutely.
Eric takes his mug of his like genuine blue collar working class mug of hot chocolate and takes a sip of that too. And he looks at Carlian just to put this discussion in the ground, so to speak. See what I did there? He will nod and says, "Yeah, okay," and take a drink.
Not everyone is as calm as Morgan and I when it comes to these things.
Or myself, he says with a grin. Not like he tried to put it down, but he's not quite willing to back down over this. But
he says, "Or myself," and Morgan she doesn't do it at him, but she's kind of smirking into the coffee, like, yes, so calm, so calm, so smooth. Totally not agitated.
Wait a minute. Suave, isn't that like Joey from Friends? Like, how you doing? Or is that not the?
It's got a slightly broader meaning than that, but essentially,
okay,
oh yeah, totally smooth, totally calm, totally just cruising along like nothing happened. It's she making a sassy face at her coffee, essentially, because it's like, oh yeah.
So anyway,
breaking hospitality is a serious thing. You should ask your hermetic friend. He learned not to break hospitality with people. Just give a smile.
Which he looks at her. I think I have been somewhat busy, but there might have been something I missed. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
The one, Stefanos, made accusations in my house. Unfounded accusations. Out of a heated discussion. I would not like to think a man of healing, and a man who is doing good work, would get himself in trouble with other parties that would take things far more sensitively than I or Morgan would. Out of a misunderstood term. I would think that would be very unfortunate for everyone, both parties included.
No, very few people seek out trouble, Eric says with a smile.
Many find it, don't they?
Now that is
the conversation has shifted a little bit, especially over the breach of hospitality. Morgan has shifted herself ever so slightly, and it's not the smooth criminal drape an arm across the back of the chair because they're not in a chair, but she has kind of draped her arm behind Callie.
But you seem to be a respectable individual and with decent judgment, so I trust you will do well. Just give a very an honest smile. It's hard with that scar to make it look, that smile nice, but it seems nice,
She's trying. It looks real good on the one side.
Yeah. Yeah. The other is like Garrus from Mass Effect 2, but that's a different story. Anyway, Eric will nod and and return her smile. Actually, trying to bury this little incident as far away as he can, and then he trying to move on from it like as quickly as he can. So he holds up his mug and empties the last of it into his mouth. Well, it's been a pleasure seeing you ladies again. He smiles. I should head home to catch a few hours sleep before I need to be at work again.
To pick up a hand and offer an idle wave. At the very least, you are now aware that there will be need for triage. In the not-so-distant future, I imagine, word will get around.
You know, that's what everyone keeps saying, he says, and he will put the mug down on the table in front of him again and pick up his briefcase, and he will head for the door.
Yeah, Kai just lounges back in the chair, sipping idly away.
Yep. Morgan resumes her lounge, drapes the arm back around behind Kali. And yeah, goes back to sipping her delightful coffee out of her dainty, dainty little china cup. Because for some reason it just pleases me.
Yes.
So I dare say, with the good doctor departing, shall we call it there?
Yes.
Yes. So we will say thank you, players, for playing. And thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you next time on Darkness in Dublin, the Mage venue.